There we go. Great. Hey, well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. As I kind of mentioned before, my name is Curtis and I'm a guide with Trek Travel. Tonight is all about cycling vacations of a lifetime. And it takes a team to have a cycling vacation of a lifetime and also to tell you about one. And so joining us tonight is Hershey. He is a veteran guide who has been guiding all over the world. So he has lots of great stories that he can tell you about any place you want to go, even other than Chile or Japan. So don't feel free to save some of those questions if you have some other hot spots that you wanted to talk about. You know, everyone has become Zoom experts these days after all the Zoom meetings that we've had. But just to give you a few tips, you know, you have your menu bar, and that's where you have your mute button and your video toggle button. It's also where you have the chat box button, and maybe you don't use that as much, but the chat box is where we're going to have all of our quizzes. So when a quiz pops up, we have 2 of them. You want to open up your chat box, and you will answer the question by placing the correct letter in the box. We will then, of all the people who correctly answer the question, we'll randomly select a winner at the end of tonight's presentation. So you want to stick around to see if you got a little bit of swag. And it's also where you can ask questions throughout the evening. We generally wait till the end with the Q&A, but as we're going through, if questions pop into your head, you don't want to wait, just write them down. We kind of scroll through the chat box so that we can kind of look at what questions came up, you know, as they came to you, because sometimes at the end people kind of forgot, like, oh, I had a really good question, but I can't remember what it was. So feel free to jot them down now. Also where you can do the closed captioning. So if you want to hit that button, I know with TV, I watch it with closed captioning all the time these days. Sometimes I have a tendency to talk fast. So if the closed caption does not accurately capture what I said, I apologize if anything inappropriate pops up. At this point, I just want to ask everybody to please turn off their mic and their video. We'll save a little bit of bandwidth. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll have you all turn it back on and ask your questions if you want. So with that, let's talk about today's route. For those of you who've been on our trips before, I know I heard Glacier was one of them. As you guys know, we have a route talk at the beginning to give you an idea of kind of where we're going, what you're going to see that day. So here's your route talk, and then we'll move on to the question of like, why Trek Travel? Why should you choose Trek Travel? And then we'll move on beyond that to the climb, which is to trip spotlights, which are Chile and Japan. And then quickly, yet safely, we always want to be safe. For those of you who've been on trips, you know that we always want to safely do everything. We'll descend to touch on how to book a trip and just talk about trip logistics and things of that sort, what comes next. And then we'll finish strong with some question and answers and some randomly selected raffle prize winners. So as I said before, make sure you stick around. And again, for those of you who've been on trips, safety talk usually comes out as being the least fun talk. And so, but there's no safety talk tonight, so you don't have to worry about that at all. So let's begin with, who is Trek Travel? Well, Trek Travel is a group of people who believe the world is best seen from the seat of a bicycle, or in this case, a statue of a bicycle. And because you're joining us tonight, I'm guessing that you do as well. Trek Travel runs cycling vacations all over the world, and we're always scouting out new locations to take you to. And we've been doing it for over 20 years now, which is awesome. And over those 20 plus years, we've won lots of awards. We've been voted one of the top vacation companies by our guests and partners by various organizations over the years. Most recently, we were voted a top operator by Travel and Leisure for 2023, number 5, in fact. This is our highest ranking to date, which we're very, very proud of. This award itself is a repeat from 2022, 2021, 2018, and 2016. And we are extremely proud of all the awards that we've won, but we're not going to sit on our laurels. We want to continue to win more. And so we're going to continue to work hard to make sure we're doing what it takes to be the best cycling vacation company out there. So you wonder, what are you doing to win all these awards? Well, at Trek Travel, I'm sure you've heard this before, we like to call it our secret sauce. It's what sets us apart from other tour operators. But rather than telling you about it, I want to show you a video because, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, a video has to be worth at least 1,000,000. So there's a video by our president, Tanya Burke. It's called Why Trek Travel.
Travel is transformational. It allows you to have a different perspective, get to know a culture, your surroundings, and the landscape around you. But a cycling vacation really is different. You can see things up close and personal. You can smell the flowers. You work up an appetite riding your bike, and so it makes the dinners taste that much better. And for me, it is the absolute best way to see the world. We meticulously plan every single one of our trips, from hand-picked, perfect accommodations to the region's best riding and local and cultural experiences that really immerse you in the place that you're traveling. And these are all the elements of an awesome trip. Our guides provide exceptional hospitality. They're really focused on making sure we have a seamless and effortless experience for our guests, and they provide wow moments that you would never expect. If you're avid and want to go do some epic climbing, you can do that. If you want more of a leisurely ride, we have trips for you as well. We also offer e-bikes, and they have been an absolute game changer. People can go further than they ever imagined. So we have different rider levels, different trip styles, price points, and destinations all throughout the world. We go to North America, Europe, South America, Asia, and pretty much anywhere you can dream up, we can take you on a vacation there. The most important thing, and I think everyone at Trek Travel shares this, is taking care of people. And that's why we do what we do. It's ingrained in our training, and it's ingrained in our commitment to providing exceptional hospitality. And our hope is that all of these elements come together and provide an experience of a lifetime.
And I love that video. It just makes me want to get out and ride my bike. I'll also note that I watch a lot of YouTube for TV, movies, or not movies, but news and whatnot, sporting events, because it summarizes them. And they must know that I watch that a lot, because that is the commercial that almost always pops up. And I will say, even though I've probably seen it hundreds of times, I still let it play sometimes. It's fun to watch it on a bigger screen. So, in case, speaking of riding, we know that you're here tonight because you love to ride as well, and bikes are one of the many ways that Trek Travel sets itself apart. On our Chile trip, we provide the Trek Domani SL7 Gen 3 and also the Trek Verve Plus for an e-bike, and then the Domani Plus ALR. And then on our Japan trip, we have the Trek Domani SL5 or the Trek Verve Plus 2. So a couple different bikes than we normally have on our trips. If you look at a lot of our North American or European trips, we oftentimes use the Trek Domani SL7. So it's going different places requires different bikes. So, and let's say, if you haven't ridden any bike before, you should pop into your local Trek dealer and go for a test ride. They're awesome. I have 2 e-bikes myself and absolutely love them. There's a great way for people of different fitness levels to equally enjoy a cycling vacation. So, and here's a picture of them. So, as you can see, this is what a Verve Plus looks like. A little more of an upright, kind of step-through hybrid kind of thing, and so that's the setup. Also, I should note that our e-bikes are electric assist bikes, which means you have to pedal. There isn't a throttle. We will confuse e-bikes with the bikes where you just kind of sit on like a moped and have a throttle. It's not it. As I mentioned, there's a Verve Plus 2, which is very similar to this picture, just slightly different, has a slightly different look, but still has a nice step through. The Domani Plus ALR that's available on the Chile trip, but not on the Japan trip, that is an electric assist road bike. So it looks just like a road bike. You can barely tell that it is an e-bike. So, and there I should note, there is also, while the Verve Pluses do not have an upgrade fee, there is an upgrade fee for the Domani Plus ALR. So, talking about e-bikes, get ready for your first trivia question. Yes, they're going to be about e-bikes. Open up that chat box. Question is, which of the following is not an e-bike class? And just so everybody knows, e-bikes come in classes, 3 classes. So which of them is not an e-bike class? And again, everyone should answer this because we'll randomly select a prize winner at the end of our evening. So just throw out whatever answer you think it is. Again, the question is, which is not an e-bike class, which means 3 of those 4 is an e-bike class. See some answers coming in here. This is the last and give you a sense of what classes. E-bike classes are really based on what class you have determines kind of how the assist works and also the maximum speed. So that's how they classify bikes. So I think we've gotten all the answers in that we're going to get, and the correct answer is B, class 4. There is no class 4. There's a class 1, give me a class 2 and a class 3. And then I'll give you the facts on it. Class 1 is low speed pedal assist, which provides assistance to a maximum of 20 miles an hour. Class 2 is low speed throttle assisted. So this is the one that has throttle. Again, ours are all pedal assist, but low speed throttle assisted bikes that can't go faster than 20 again. So 1 and 2 are both maxed out at 20. And then class 3 is again pedal assisted up to 28 miles an hour. And there's no throttle assist. It's only pedal assist. So little fun fact, I actually kind of had a vague idea of all the classes before, and now I have a much better idea. So when you're looking at e-bikes, you know too what's whether it's a class 1, 2, or 3, what it'll do for you. The other question we get besides e-bikes and classes is rider levels. So we have 4 different rider levels. 1 is leisure, 2 is recreational, 3 is active, and 4 is avid. I'm not going to go into the details about all of those rider levels, but if you go on our website, it's basically each rider level has a different kind of amount of distance for the day, how much elevation you're going to do, how many hours you're in the saddle. And so if you look at trips, you can kind of say, oh, is this a leisure where it's lower miles or an avid where it's a lot more miles? One of our trips too is talk about what's included in our trips. And so we always like to say we include more. So you have the hotel guides, daily breakfasts, most lunches, most dinners, daily snacks and drinks, gratuities, any local staff. So if you're kind of doing events, you don't have to worry about gratuities for them. Any luggage transfers, if you're in a trip that's going from different hotels, don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Sometimes you stay in one spot, sometimes you move. And obviously transportation during the trip. So again, if that's included as well, the world-class bikes we're just talking about, which are all equipped with Garmin GPSs, and you get a helmet, flat pack, support van, obviously, which is great for some of those longer rides, and then 1 to 3 daily routes, and some, depending on the trip, some Trek travel gear to like I said, everyone loves gear and swag. So it just depends on the trip. It's going to vary what you get. What's not included are airfare to and from the trip. And we always recommend, of course, lodging to and from the trip as well. But we always recommend that you go out a day or 2 early to kind of, these days with travel hiccups, it's not uncommon to kind of have a trip delayed, or a flight delayed. So it's not a bad idea to get there a day or 2 early so you don't miss the beginning of the trip and just enjoy it. I mean, the areas that we pick are obviously beautiful places to be. So there's no reason not to get out there a little bit early. And then, of course, when you're done, stay a little bit after and kind of get to see things. Some of our trips sometimes seem to be pretty jam-packed. And so everything's planned out for you. So there's a few things that you wanted to see. It's always good to stay an extra day or 2. Any personal items like souvenirs obviously aren't covered. Optional activities that aren't scheduled by us, again, aren't covered. And then some meals, we want you to get out and kind of enjoy the local cuisine. And we pick out fantastic places to eat, but there might be something that you want to try that's a little different than what we normally choose. And then, of course, gratuity for any of the guides. So that's not included either. So let's open up our chat boxes once again. Here's your second chance to win some swag. So question tonight is, what is the average group size? We have A12, B8, C10, or D16. So what is the average group size for a Trek travel trip? Well, you throw some answers in there. I see someone throw it's F, which I really like because that's not even a possible answer. That's a great one. I'm sure that was a typo there, Richard. Hey, I think go with F, man. That might should be a winner. So if you folks a few more seconds to throw in your answers. I always say, if you don't know, you always go with C. That's what they always heard about multiple choice questions. Not saying that's the right answer, but sometimes it's not bad to go with C. Looks like the answers stopped coming in, so I'll say final call. The correct answer is D, 12. The average group size for a Trek travel trip is 12. But they vary. I'll say on our ride camps, they can be up to 30 people. Cross country is usually right around 25. I've been on trips with as few as, actually, I had one trip with just one person. I ride camp once and no one else made it. So it was just me and another guy for the week. I was in Alaska with two people. So it felt like a extended double date with me and my co-guide. But on average, you're getting about 12 people, which is really a great size where you can make new friends. And then also, but the group's not so big that it kind of gets to be tough to kind of, manage that many people kind of getting around, getting to restaurants, things of that sort. So I think it's a great group size. Now we're on to our third and definitely the most important part of tonight's event, the trip spotlights. We're going to hear more about Chile and Japan. So to tell you about those trips is my good friend and colleague, Hershey. Hershey, you want to take it away?
Yeah, Curtis, I will take it away. Thank you. Thank you so much. I've been answering. We have a lot of great questions in the chat box tonight based on weather and the trip. So while I'm chatting, maybe you can dive in and answer some of those questions as well. I love it when the chat box is going. And what I love better is that these two trips we're talking about tonight, both are 7 days, both are 6 nights, both get you into very unique yet different cultures. And you really, if you're looking for a trip where you immerse yourself in the culture, you get to ride your bike, see amazing areas, eat incredible food, yet very different types of cuisine. These two trips are pretty darn amazing. So we're going to start off with Chile. And by far, Chile is an adventurer's paradise. Chile was voted South America's leading adventure tourism destination by World Travel Awards. And it's pretty awesome that we got number 5 last year. And I know we're going to continue to push to be the best. But even the mere mention of Chile, for many, as you can see here, thoughts of smoking volcanoes, lush rainforests, open, beautiful roads, a great, warm and welcoming culture. And, Trek Travel takes you to the outdoor mecca of Pucón and a ride near the border of Argentina. We're going to see amazing lakes, as I said, volcanoes and everything else. So this trip truly is incredible. And not to mention, each day you're going to finish off with an amazing Chilean meal. So the riding, how does this road look to you? To me, it looks pretty darn sweet and incredible. I think Chile has, the pavement is amazing. If you consider yourself an avid cyclist, or as Curtis mentioned, those levels before, a level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4 rider, this trip is designed with a level 3 active rider in mind. That is 32 miles per day, with here between 2,200 to 3,000 feet of elevation per day. We're going to cover a lot of ground on this trip. We do have a shuttle in the middle of it. And so we really are going to try to allow you to see the best that the area has to offer. Now, after settling in and getting fit on a bike, we ease into the first day with either a 20-mile or a 31-mile trip to Lake Baruga, and then onto the famous Hufi Hot Springs. So you can enjoy views of the Viara volcano as we pedal through Chile's lakes and the volcano district. And then if you wish to, you can jump in and soak in the hot springs before we head back to the hotel for dinner. Now, the next day, we explore more of Villarrica National Park as we ride alongside the Trancura River. We'll pass through the Mapuche villages, and we'll get a chance to travel and then taste some fresh sopapillas, yugo de frambuesa. If you're feeling up for a challenge, which I really recommend, you can take on today's Avid ride. There's this newly paved road, beautiful switchbacks. They take you to basically the spine of the Andes Mountains. And really, we go right up to the border of Argentina, which that's pretty awesome in my book. Or you can just hop on the shuttle if you're like, I've done my riding for the day, I'm good. You can head back to the hotel. And tonight you can explore the town of Pucón And one feature, Curtis mentioned things that aren't included, those free nights on the town. I love these nights because it really allows you to get out, explore, and experience the local culture at your pace. Each day brings something new and beautiful to discover in Chile, as I've mentioned already. And the third day of this trip, it's no exception. As I mentioned, you're going to take a shuttle, and then we're going to ride a portion of Chile's scenic route of the Seven Lakes. You can soak up more incredible views of the volcano. You're going to pedal alongside amazing lakes, and then we're heading to the rainforest reserve of Ulo Ulo Reserve. It was created in 1999. It includes an amazing 600 square kilometer of native forests in Chile. This area is dedicated to wildlife. It's dedicated to conservation and tourism. And you get to experience all of this before we arrive at our next hotel. Now, speaking of hotels, our first hotel of this trip, if you love this view, well, this is our hotel. It's Hotel Antumala. It's an iconic boutique hotel. If you think of Bauhaus and Frank Lloyd Wright merged together, well, they inspired the architecture and the design. It's located on the shores of Lake Villarrica in a 5-hectare private park. It's just 2 kilometers from the city of Pucón. You have amazing views of the volcano as the backdrop to the hotel. And you'll be in good company once you stay here because other well-known guests, the former Queen of England has stayed here, Neil Armstrong has stayed here, Barry Goldwater, Emma Thompson, just to name a few people. Also, what I'd like to say is just know there are many variations for our Chile trips. So make sure the dates that you pick coincide with the hotels that you would like to stay in. And some of the rides will change on day 5 and 6 based on those hotels. Moving right along. The most precious treasures are always those ones that are hard to find. And at Trek Travel, we really pride ourselves on finding the best places to stay, the quietest roads to ride, and the best meals to have. Nawalpi Lodge, which means Spirit of the Puma in its native language, is one of these hotels that fits that bill. It's a place of beauty. It invites you to forget the everyday aspects of stress in life. You get to hang out in the exclusive bungalows located on the banks of the River Fu. The very design decision of this unique hotel has been considered to combine the richness of its natural surroundings. So everything kind of fits in together. And you can see here from this slide that you're looking at, it's a mix of luxury, of natural environment, but things have been fused together to have this warm, welcoming feel to each of the bungalows. There are whirlpool tubs for you to soak in. You have amazing views of the forest right from your place. There's unique wood carved furniture, and it just combines so much of the nature in the area to give a decadent retreat feeling to take away the worries of the everyday life. And man, that was a lot, but this hotel is definitely awesome. Then we go on to enjoy the serenity of our next home. It's nestled in a 34,000-acre private natural reserve. And the Futang Lodge is a pure gem in the Patagonian forest. It's on a private nature reserve. It's located, as I mentioned before, in the Lake District, and it's close to Lake Ranco, and you're going to find this hotel and spa to be exquisite. Now, on this trip, I've talked about the food, and I love this dish right now. I'm thinking of food. Hopefully, if you haven't had dinner yet, you may be inspired on what to have for dinner tonight. But this is asados, and asado, it's more than just a meal. In Argentina, Chile, and a number of the South American countries, it is a culinary cultural event. It could be even considered an emblem of Argentinian culture. Argentina is known across the globe for the quality of its beef, and an asada is where you're going to find beef that's grilled slowly to perfect, juicy perfection. So we are going to experience similar food to that on our Chilean trip. And also, I've been asked just to point out, besides the shuttles that we have on this trip, sometimes meal service here is a little bit slower, and just want to gear expectations. But we mainly eat at the hotel, so we're lucky enough to work with the vendors to know our guests. But it takes just a little bit longer at times. However, we're going to have amazing meals in some incredibly remote and breathtaking places, and it's sure to fuse everything together to create that perfect trip. Now, one other thing, besides amazing food, let's not just forget about that, but they also have amazing drinks, some of the best wines in the world. Carmenero wine, it was originally from Bordeaux, France. However, they stopped producing it there. It is now exclusively grown in Chile. It's fantastic. You can also toast with a pisco sour. It's a zesty cocktail of Peruvian origin that is typical of the cuisines from Peru. Excuse me, sorry, Peru and Chile. And if you haven't had one of these, it's absolutely delicious. I just love the foam and the zesty feel to the drink itself. Now, on the last morning, you can either take a short ride, which I highly recommend, because before you travel on to your next spot, just to spin out the legs, it's great. If you're like, I've ridden enough on this trip, it's time for me to say ciao. Well, then you can hang out and enjoy our hotel. But now we're going to say goodbye to the volcanoes, goodbye to the lakes, goodbye to all things that are Chile. And we are going to say hello to our next destination. Those who are looking for a true Japanese cultural experience, I think you will love this trip. Much of the food in the hotels are true to the Japanese culture and encourage a sense of adventure in non-Western accommodation. So this is definitely, you are immersing yourself into Japan. Trek Travel is going to take you along the way. This trip has great culture. It has amazing history. It's filled with tradition. We have sacred spaces, stunning temples to explore, and also authentic dining. You also get to try an osana, and how could I forget the bike riding here? It's amazing. And it's almost like a secondary bonus to the culture that you will get to experience. So if you're ready to experience a different culture from the US, Canada, North America, or Japan, just may be calling your name. Hershey, how is the riding? Well, I'm glad you asked. The riding in Japan, it's mainly, once again, for a level 3 and 4 riders. You'll average about 33 miles per day with 3,200 feet of climbing. But I do need to say that the roads here are typically very technical. They're not wide roads like we have here. They're more similar to European roads. They're weavy, they're windy. They're also a little bit rough. The switchbacks can be tight. Some sections are short, steep, and punchy. Some of the gradients can reach over 15%, but they're not sustained. You get up, you've had a great workout, you're going to feel good. It's definitely a cyclist dream to ride. And I will say e-bikes are available in Japan. However, we do recommend that you need to have some good bike handling skills just to deal with the rougher roads and those tight switchbacks. Now, a trip highlight here is when we cycle along the winding forest roads through Mount Yoshino. And as you can see here in this slide, that road that kind of weaves down there, this is the road that we're going to be on. Yoshino is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's the sacred center of Shugando, a religion predating Buddhism, Shintoism, and Taoism. It's also the name of a pilgrimage to Japan's most famous spring cherry blossom bloom. Today, you'll also get to visit the Shinto shrine while soaking in the forest. Maybe you can do a spot of forest bathing. You might say, Hershey, what is forest bathing? That just sounds weird. Well, it's a Japanese practice and a process of relaxation. It's called Shinrin Yoku, and it's a simple method of helping your body to be calm and quiet amongst the trees. You begin by observing all the trees, your surroundings around you. You slowly begin with slow, deep breaths and slow exhalations, and you take in everything and you quiet your mind. And both adults and children in Japan, this is a great way for them to de-stress, boost their health and well-being in a very calm and natural way. And I dare say for our church travel guests who've done this, they've really thoroughly enjoyed it. After, we go back to the hotels, we hang out. On another day, you're going to have this amazing Japanese breakfast. And then we hop on the bike and we begin to descend down the mountain. The first section of ride will be flat along the Yoshino River, leading into the town of Hashimoto. After fueling up, well, you'll start the climb to Koyasan on a picturesque road through the forest. You can recharge on a small downhill before climbing to the top of this very sacred mountain, where the views are certainly worth it, and the endorphins you burn to get up there will be helping you to feel right and high. Now, I do need to talk about some of the hotels on this trip because they're very different, but our first home is the Miboroji Hotel Nara. Here you'll find a warm welcome from a place which strives to provide an experience beyond just a nice room for you to rest in. They've crafted a space where you can relax slowly while feeling the warmth of the wood in the history of the ancient city of Nara. And here is a view of that hotel room. As you can see, it kind of encompasses everything that we're talking about. The hotels on this trip are a mixture of Western and Japanese. We have two of each, so two Japanese style hotels, two Western style hotels. The first hotel is Western style and a member of the world famous small luxury hotels of the world. Now, traditional beauty is mixed with Japanese spirit in our second hotel. In this magic hotel, a 300-year-old traditional Japanese garden and accommodations in ryokan, and you can enjoy a bath in a traditional hot spring known as the onsen, or you can walk on trails against the backdrop of the ancient temple, which is the main temple of Mount Yoshino here. And either one that you do, it's all great, but definitely you want to jump in and hop in the hot spring onsen. It's very Japanese and very awesome. So our third hotel is the Sekiso Inn. This is a very special place to stay, and you get to stay here with Trek Travel. These are one of those hotels that's kind of hard to get to, and we're happy to be able to share this with you. A few things to note about this hotel, since it is just Japanese style, there won't be any showers in your room. There are communal baths known as the onsen, and they don't open until 4 p.m. And you may have to wait after your ride when you come back from that to go into the onsen. But the onsen is an important part of Japanese culture. It's totally worth the experience. And if you're up with a sense of adventure, and you know going in, when you get done with your ride, you might have to wait a little bit to rinse off, then definitely this trip is for you. Dinner here, it's a true authentic affair. So it's one of the lighter meals we're going to have on this trip. It's completely vegetarian. So if you are a vegetarian, this dinner is for you. And if you're not, it's a great place to experience an amazing Japanese vegetarian meal that we're going to have on this trip. Another aspect of this trip, which brings in a totally different culture. Have you ever thought about an early morning stroll through a picturesque, perfect town, and just the inhabitants are beginning to wake up? What about imagine hearing in the distance a melodious talking or something more like chanting? As you arrive closer, you'll realize that the monks are choral chanting or singing for their morning ceremony. You can go out and do that, or you can spend time exploring as long as you make it in before the night's curfew of 9 p.m. But it's a great way to experience and completely submerge yourself in this beautiful culture for a night. Some other things you can enjoy: a temple with more than, a temple that's over 1,100 years old, and a garden that surrounds this temple that's over 6,600 meters squared. So there's some definitely amazing things for you to check out. Now let's discuss the cuisine. The food in Japan is a big part of the cultural experience, and it needs to be presented, you need to understand what you're getting here. So if you're in for a sense of adventure and exploring the culture, the traditional cuisine is known as woshuku. It's the food of Japan. Dinner is usually kaiseki. It's traditional multi-course meal served on a tray. Typical ingredients are skewered and grilled chicken, pickled vegetables, tofu, sashimi, sushi, tempura, both fried vegetables and seafood. They do ramen as well. A lot of noodles, soup, slurping. My wife can't stand the noise, but here I think it's okay. And then there's also your typical Japanese breakfast. Those breakfasts, and we'll experience these at our Japanese style hotels, not so much at the Western ones, but those will include miso soup, smoked fish, beans, eggs, and pickled vegetables. When we are not staying at the Western style hotels where you're going to have more of a traditional breakfast we're used to, the guides will have extra food to help supplement, to make sure you are getting the calories you need and want to be able to ride the bike like you would like. Now, of course, Japan wouldn't be Japan without talking about sushi. And this is by far a guest and guide wow, if we can call it that, but you will jump in and have a sushi making class where you're going to learn how to do sushi, make your rolls, and do all things to help with that. Something that I found interesting was that until an earthquake in the early 1920s, sushi was considered a cheap roadside snack for people who didn't have time to eat sitting down. Yes, that's right. That $10, $15, $20, $30 roll you may be paying for in your local sushi restaurant. Well, that is that used to be, like the McDonald's of sushi. So now sushi is world famous. You no longer see it just on the sides of the road of Japan, but now you're on this trip, you will learn how to make your own sushi and take it home with you. So in all, now we can say goodbye to Japan. It's stunning culture, the scenery, and all that. And hopefully you'll either walk away from Chile or Japan with, amazing experiences, delving into the cultures, riding your bike, having a great time spinning in amazing cultures. So Curtis, my only question to you is, what do you think? Should we head to Japan this October, or maybe next spring, or maybe we go to Chile in November, December, or January? And I'm feeling like Chile in January would be pretty darn awesome, because why not get away from the snow and get into good weather? And with that, I'm going to hand it back to you.
Thanks. Did I say both, man? Why pick one or the other? And I like this idea of the sushi being a roadside. I mean, I always feel like the fast food is so bad for you, but if it could be sushi, that'd be fantastic. But listen to
Right?
notes. Never have any gas station sushi. That's always a bad choice. So
Unless you're in Japan, and then
unless you're in Japan, exactly. Unless you're in Japan, it's a whole different experience. I will, on that note, I was actually in Hawaii and they had poke, at gas stations, and like you never want, that's something else you wouldn't want to get. And it was amazing. It was this gas station at poke, and it was like super awesome. So it just depends on the culture. And Japan is where you can get gas station sushi. So if you've always wanted that, that's where you should go. Well, now that we've got you all excited about a cycling vacation of a lifetime where you can have gas station sushi, say that 5 times fast, you probably want to know what is next.
Definitely say that 5 times fast, Curtis. Maybe that'll be the next quiz.
Yeah,
Whoever
that's
can say
the next challenge, right? There's some
Right.
some really good swag for that. Um, yes, I'm not going to try. Anyway, well, watch out for an email from our team with lots of great info to recap tonight's presentation, including a link to the video. So I know some people had to check off early, so you can just watch the whole thing. Visit our website to get more information about these trips and others, including dates and prices, trip logistics, so you know where to fly into, what to bring, and just all sorts of other helpful information. You can also play around with our trip finder tool to look at other trips, searching by region, date, rider level, and just there's just so many ways to find, a trip on our website. It's awesome. And while you are there searching around for trips, you should also check out our industry-leading cancellation policy and our travel insurance provider. And once you've got all that information together and you know what you want to do, give us a call to book your trip Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Or you can also book some of our trips. I think maybe most of them these days, used to be only a few, from the comfort of your own couch anytime. So if 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. doesn't work for you and you're one of those late night shoppers, then you can late night shop a Trek travel trip. Then once you've booked a trip, you got to get ready for it. This isn't this before. This isn't some lazy trip where you just kind of lay on the beach, hang out, drink pina coladas, which I love. I was in Puerto Rico earlier and did that and absolutely loved it. By the way, pina colada is the national drink of Puerto Rico. No, this is a cycling trip, so you kind of have to get ready for it, but that's really part of the fun. So you kind of get out, start riding a little bit, go to your local Trek dealer and find out, if they have any kind of local rides that you can join. Also find out about kind of gear that you might want to have. I mean, I know I was reading about Chile, just the intense sun, so you want to have sun sleeves. I never used to use sun sleeves. It always seemed like it'd be warmer instead of sunscreen. If you don't have them, sun sleeves are amazing. I was in Texas using those and they are just incredible. I've become a huge fan on those long sunny days of having sun sleeves. But gear up, go to your local Trek dealer, get a bunch of gear that you need for these trips. Find out about some local rides, and then also check out the bikes and get fitted for them. So we always ask for measurements, and if you're not riding one of our bikes, the measurements you give can be slightly off. So it's always great if you kind of hop on the exact same bike and then have some measurements ready so your bike's a little closer to being all dialed in when you get there. So with that, let's talk about events. We've enjoyed learning about Trek travel, the bikes that we offer on some of the trips, and where you can ride those bikes. There are other bikes. These trips have some different bikes. So I always offer some standard bikes and other trips as well. And so if you want to check out any other trips, go to trektravel.com/events, or you can just go to the events on the About Us link, and you can find other upcoming events if you want to hear about other places. So next Thursday, August 3rd at 6 p.m. Central Time, we're going to talk about U.S. ride camps. One of my absolute favorites. I love ride camps. They're just all about riding. And then the following Tuesday, August 8th at 6:30 Central Time, we're going to talk about European ride camps. So we're going to know all about the European ride camps, which are also amazing. So anyway, before you go this evening, we have to finish our journey and answer some questions. Hopefully we've stirred up some questions. And after all the questions are answered, we will give out the randomly selected prize winners. So you want to make sure you stick around, even if you don't have any questions, to see if you won a prize, because we do have 2 prize winners this evening. So with that, I'm going to stop the presentation. And I know actually we have a couple questions in the thing. And then if you want to either throw questions in the chat box or just turn your video back on, and so we can see you, and then or just your audio, we hear you. But let's start with a couple of questions I know I saw in the chat box. First, one of them was, are there mosquitoes in Chile? If you know the answer, why don't you jump in? Otherwise, I did do a little research while you were talking about it. And not surprisingly, the internet gave some mixed information. But do you know about the mosquitoes in Chile?
What the research I did, and I typed it in there, there are no mosquitoes in the Pucón region.
Great.
So
that's very good. So I saw one that said, oh, there's no mosquitoes. And I saw another one. It was like the TripAdvisor said one thing. TripAdvisor UK said, oh, it's very dangerous. But I did see that Chile is considered malaria free. So it's always a nice thing to know. Another question we had was, do the hotels in Japan have air conditioning?
And the answer is yes.
Okay.
The first 2 have AC. The second 2, some of the rooms do. So we should be good. on that?
Okay. You know, it's a good question. It's funny, people don't often think about that, but I'll tell you, when I was guiding in Alaska, my first season, we had a guest say, "Hey, the AC is like it's just needs to be turned up a little bit here." And I'm like, "We're in Alaska. There are no air conditioning. There is no air conditioning in Alaska." So it was a particularly warm summer. Maybe in the future, Alaska will need to have air conditioning, but they don't. They didn't at the current time. So anyway, anybody have any other questions? Any burning questions about these trips, or frankly, other trips, or anything about trek travel? If not, I'm going to throw. There's a couple common questions we get that Hirsch and I can go over. So if anyone's not jumping on, hey Hirsch, why don't you throw out a couple of your good pro tips about trek travel trips?
Yeah, so if you are coming on a trek travel trip to Japan or Chile and you've been training on your bike and you're going to use our bike, Curtis and I would recommend you bring your saddle with you, just because you are used to and accustomed to your saddle. And your guides in Japan or Chile can place that saddle on the bike for you. We have typically Shimano pedals, but if you have any other pedals that you clip into, bring those pedals with you. And then the helmet that people wear, we always have helmets provided for you. However, sometimes it's also nice just to have your own helmet when you go on trip with us.
Totally agree. They're wave cell, and if you like those, it's great. But you know, people's heads are all different. So, and one thing I've noticed too, Hirsch, now if you feel the same, the wave cell helmet is a little heavier than a lot of other helmets. It means protecting your brain, so that's not a bad thing. But just depends on the feel. So again, hop into your local trek dealer, and I would say, you know, if you want to try it out before you go see if you want to bring your own or not, just put it on and see if you like it. If it's great and you like the way it feels, then you don't want to pack a helmet, then you can not have to worry about that. But otherwise, you might want to bring your own. I totally agree with that. A question popped up. If you were going to Chile and had a choice, would you go in March or January? Any thoughts on that, Hirsch?
January, it's definitely going to be warmer. And I think it comes down to your personal preference. If you were to go in March, I would go in early March, because that's where the temperatures are going to be more in the mid 70s. And then as we come down near the end of the month, they're going to be in the high 60s, low 70s. So if you want to ride in much warmer weather in Chile, like January, it's definitely mid to upper 70s. February is probably the hottest. And then as we roll into March, March is just a little bit cooler than January is. Yeah, cool. I would probably go early March personally. Yeah, but that's just me.
Christina asked, is the Domani electric Domani Plus available in Japan? No, it's, as first mentioned, it's just the Verve. So when you look at our website, you look at each trip, it gives you all this information about the trip itself. It breaks down every day kind of what you're doing, where you're eating, you know, what meals are provided, and talks about the bikes. And so you can see which bikes, you know, have, if you wanted to really get a trip with the Domani Plus, you could actually search and find which trips have the Domani Plus, if that's a bike you want to try. I personally own the Domani Plus LT and the Domani Plus SLR. They're both amazing bikes. I absolutely love them. It's made riding just so much more enjoyable for me. And I've been crushing a lot of my local PRs. So maybe there's an asterisk on that. So another question, are there power meters on bikes? No, there are not power meters on them, but I know, and Hirsch's probably had this too, like people will bring their own pedals if they have the Garmin pedals, and we're happy to switch those out for you. And so I know, and I think, God, Hirsch, I mean, I know I've switched out a crank one time for somebody who wanted a power meter on their crank, and they had, the crank arm had it. So
I tell you, I used to travel with the Stages, left side crank arm, but once the Garmin power pedals came out, it's just so much easier.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So yeah, so if power meter is something you want, like talk to us how you're going to do it, and we can probably work with you, but the pedals are probably the best way. But otherwise, we'll work with you to let you have. I mean, we know cyclists like all their gadgets and keeping track of stuff. I mean, I love it too. So we'll work with you on making sure you can do the same thing on these trips.
Yeah.
Cool. Unless anybody else has any other questions or anything else from you, Hirsch, any other tips you can think of? I mean, you covered all my main ones. Unless anyone else has any questions, we'll go right to the prizes so we can find out the big winners. Want to give me a drum roll, Hershey?
All right, here we go.
There you go. Perfect. So our prize winners tonight are John Christopher and Richard Mayhew. Congratulations, guys. You will be getting a follow-up email with about your prizes. So send us off and they'll send you something. If nobody has any other questions or anything else they'd like to comment on, I want to say thank you very much for joining us this evening. Hopefully we'll see you on another Trek Travel event or maybe a trip. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you guys for joining us, and hopefully we will see you in Japan or Chile or somewhere else around the globe.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Thanks. And thanks, Hirsch. Have a great night.
Thanks, you too, Curtis. And Curtis, there's no better way, I think, to see the world than by a bike. So
no doubt about that. No doubt about that. So, good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.